Okay. Sometimes you are given a question where they ask you to substitute. Now this is also an achieve level type question, and this is out of the videos I've made. This is the last one I'm classifying as achieved level. But you want to sort of master all the different algebra skills. Substitute's probably the easiest out of all of them, really, because all it means is substitute is like if you're playing a game of football and you've got players on 10 players on the field playing plus the goalie in that, but one of the players is getting tired. Um, the coach can say, "Ref, sub," and they can call out for a substitute, and one of the players can come off the field, and a player on the side of the field can go on and take his place. Okay, that's what substitute is, taking the place. So when you're substituting the letters in an expression, um, or even an equation, but in this case they're just expressions. With you're changing the letters with values. So in this case, anytime you see an A, we replace it with a 2. Anytime we see a B, we replace it with a 3. And anytime we see a C, we replace it with a -1. And then we solve it. So it might say solve it, or evaluate, or have give an answer. They might have a different way they say this. But when it's substitute, you always have an answer, okay? It's not simplifying. It's actually finding an answer by replacing the letters with the numbers and then working it out. So there's an actual answer. So let's do this one here, 3a plus b, and I'll show you sort of how that works when you're substituting. So as I said, it's probably the easiest one to do. Okay, so 3a, when I substitute the a, I'm putting 2 instead. So 3a would actually become, I'll just write it underneath so you can sort of see it, would actually be, instead of 3a, it would actually be 3 times, and a becomes 2, so I'd write 3 times 2. So 3a is actually 3 times 2, or 3 times a is 3 times 2 there. Okay, and it says plus b, so plus stays the same, we'll just put a plus there, and b, it gets replaced by a 3, so we'll do that. So now I have to use my order of operations, and I have to do the minus before the plus. So 3 times 2 is 6. Yep. Plus 3 gives me an answer of what? 6, 7, 8, 9. And so my answer, when I've evaluated it or solved it, is I actually have an answer, 9. So just remember, when you're substituting, you're actually solving it and getting an answer. You're not just simplifying it. So they won't say simplify or anything. They just solve it or evaluate it or get an answer. So there we go. A becomes 2, so 2 times 3. B, no, how do I know it's 2 times 3 and not 3 plus 2? Because when it's right next to each other, like that, that means it's times. So let's do this one, AB. Now remember, when they're right next to each other, letters are right next to each other, that means it's A times B. So let's write it over here so you can see it. A gets substituted with 2, so I'm going to write 2. B gets substituted with 3, so I'm going to put the times in there because it's missing. And then I'm going plus C gets substituted with -1. Okay, so order of operations, I have to do the what first? I have to do the times first. So 6 plus -1 is 5. So my answer would become 5. 6 minus 1 is 5. Easy, I get an answer. Okay, now let's use substitute on this one here. So let's replace the A with a 2. And I'm going to rewrite it. The B becomes a 3. The C becomes a -1. Plus -1. Okay. Right. So now I've done that. I've replaced the letters with the numbers. In this case, I have to follow a rule where I expand it and multiply everything on the outside by everything on the inside. So 2 times 3 is what? 6? Yep. 2 times -1 is -2. So what's my answer? 6 minus 2 is 4. Boom. And now I've got an answer. Okay, cool. So that's substitute. Substitute's pretty much the easiest one. The letters just become the values, and then you rewrite it with the values, and then you work out what the answer is, and you actually come up with an answer. Hopefully that made sense, and you can do substitute. Sometimes you have to substitute into really crazy looking formulas, so they try and make it as hard as they can, but just remember the letters get replaced by numbers, and then you just solve it. And I hope you understand substitution now.